Namaste. Welcome again to the Bhagavad Gita as it is class. I'm going to back up and re-record a video that I accidentally deleted in my library on YouTube channels. So sorry about that. Still kind of anyway, my name is Janapati Das, and we're going to read from chapter 4 through 8, chapter 2, verse 4 through 8. Go over those verses again and read the purports, and so it's back in the library. Unfortunately, it will not be exactly like the class I gave on the last one because I can't retrieve that one, but I'd like to offer my respects to you. I'd also like to offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual teacher, Jagat Guru Siddhaswarapananda Paramahamsa Srila Prabhupada, whose appearance day will be approaching very shortly on the 14th, and we will be celebrating that. I'd like to thank my spiritual master for his mercy and love and kindness and imparting the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita to me that I may be able to share it with you. I'd like to also offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual grandfather, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and thank him for coming to the Western world. And if he had not come and followed his spiritual master's instructions to come and bring Krishna to the Western world, even though many of his god brothers looked down upon Western American and European fallen souls, Bhaktivedanta is compassionate to all the living beings and brought Krishna consciousness not only to the West but also all over the world. So we're grateful. My spiritual master, of course, came in contact with him and gave his life to Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So we are eternally grateful for A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, our spiritual grandfather in life and soul, to have given us Krishna in this dark and dingy country. So as usual, I'm just gonna chant some, and then we're gonna go through these verses again. So please join along. Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gorakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Krishna Namo Siddha Swarupananda Paramahamsa Namine Gorakaruna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Krishnayate Vaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Haribo, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Ganata Mirandasha, Janashalakaya, Janashalakaya, I'm forgetting my Sanskrit. Om Ganata Mirandasha, Gana Janashalakaya, Chakshur Militami, and Tasma Shukalabe Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Haribo. So, once again, I apologize for losing that video, but always gives a new perspective of, you know, the subject matter of the Bhagavad Gita is eternal, ever fresh, and always revealing. And so it's very wonderful to continually speak on the Bhagavad Gita, because it shows the eternality, the great ocean of transcendental knowledge, and how it expands and keeps expanding. People can keep commenting upon it. And there is a reference that in I believe it's the Bhagavad Gita, where they talk, or maybe it's Srimad Bhagavatam, about cherishing. I think it's the Bhagavad Gita, and we'll probably get to it. I don't know the quote exactly, but it's basically that they, how devotees of Krishna relish discussing spiritual topics together. And so we are reading from text 4. Sanskrit is such. This text 4, chapter 2. Arjuna uvacha katam bhishmam aham sunkyaye dranam cha marusudana ishabihi planti yata yami prajarhau arisudan. Arjuna uvacha. Arjuna said, Katham, how, Bhishmam unto Bhishma, aham, I, Shanke, in the fight, Dronam unto Drona, Cha, also Madhusudana, O killer of Madhu, Ishabihi, with arrows, Platyoshami, shall counterattack, Puja Arahan, those who are worshipable, Arisudan, O killer of the enemies. Translation. Arjuna said, O killer of Madhu, Krishna, how can I counterattack with arrows in battle men like Bhishma and Drona who are worthy of my worship? So Arjuna is still, he is surrendering and receiving the information, but he is also still kind of like, he's not real sure. He's like, first of all, he addresses Krishna as the killer of Madhu with a Madhu demon. And Krishna, and this is very significant because Bhaktivedanta will bring up in a later purport here how he refers to we have references of names that mean certain things, that you address different kshatriyas, and the killer of Madhu is very specific to address to Krishna by Arjuna, because Arjuna he knew that he was a killer of many great demons like Trinavarta, Putana, different ages, Hiranyakashipu and King Kamsa, and many of the others. The Davidava gorilla, of course Balaram did that, but same thing. So Krishna killed many demons, right? He was a killer of many demons, but he was a killer of a demon named Madhu, and Arjuna addressed him because he wanted him to kill a greater demon, which was his doubt, his confusion, his disillusion. When we approach our spiritual master, we are asking him to kill the demons of our mind, of Maya Devi's influence over us, of so many things that are attributed to our false bodily association, our false ego. And so Arjuna is addressing him as such. And he's wondering why, he doesn't understand how he can, when we talk about characters like from the Bhagavad Gita and the Mahabharata, these great historical figures of Bhishma and Drona, they were not just ordinary people. Bhishma was a pure devotee of Krishna. He was actually one of the greatest warriors ever. The story of Bhishma is amazing. A very wise, intelligent person. And Dronacharya was a martial teacher and a Brahmin, So they were really highly respected, and to basically kill these people in a Vedic culture was abominable. To kill a Brahmin, to kill such great brahmacharis like Bhishma, who are warriors and great saintly elders. So he's asking this question. Who are worthy of my worship. So basically they were on levels of worship. Great devotees of Krishna are always worshipped by other devotees. This is a purport, respectful superiors like Bhishma, the grandfather, and Dronacharya, the teacher, are always worshipable. Even if they attack, they should not be counterattacked. It is general etiquette that superiors are not to be offered even a verbal fight. Even if they are sometimes harsh in behavior, they should not be harshly treated. Then how is it possible for grandfather to counterattack them? Would Krishna ever attack his own grandfather, Ugrasena, or his teacher, Sandipani Muni? These were some of the arguments by Arjuna to Krishna. Now, if it were an ordinary person, if Krishna were an ordinary person, then you would have a very good argument about this. But since all the great, all the rules and regulations of the Varnashram system and the Vedas this comes from Krishna. Krishna actually in many cases breaks his own rules all the time. He does this all the time, and other demons he would fight with would would like try to point this out, that he was breaking rules and regulations, and without even really realizing, this is what the modern day atheist and demons do. They try to cherry pick things out of the Bible or religious texts that have a certain perspective or certain time and circumstance perspective, and say, well, look, this is, if we're gonna not, say that, this quote about homosexuality is evil, then we should point out all this other stuff, and without really seeing the bigger picture of all of these kind of religious texts and the reasons why things were done that way. So the same thing as this in this case of the Vedic, system, that Arjuna is asking, how can I kill this? When the Vedas say that you shouldn't do this. He's basically, all of his argument in the first chapter is this, material, the rules and regulations, and saying, look at this, and how can that correspond with that, and that seems contradictory. And this is if you don't really have a spiritual vision of the reality of things, then you can get caught up. You can look at religions and you can say, well, this is contradictory. This religion is saying this, and this religion is saying that, and this is, without really understanding the time and circumstances and the purposes of particular scriptures for time and circumstances. And some religions are a little bit for people who were in lower consciousness, so they have heavy on the rules and regulations to help elevate. I mean, like, for example, there are a lot of examples, but for one example would be the Hebrew people in the Israelites in under the care of Moses and Aaron and Sarah and all those characters, those historical people. They had the Old Testament has a couple books where it's just like really rigid, specific types of temple worship and types of animal sacrifice and rules and regulation. And so then if you don't really understand the purpose and the time and circumstance of something, because we would know that actually later on, and as time went on, Jehovah became very dissatisfied. God became very dissatisfied with the burnt offerings, because people were not, they were not getting beyond that point of just like understanding that you're supposed to elevate your consciousness, and this is way to elevate your consciousness to a next level. But they were stuck in the rules and regulations, so that by the time you got to Jesus Christ, the Pharisees and the Hebrew scribes and the Jewish scribes, they were actually so hung up on all the rules and regulations and their importance of being the main priestly caste, that here comes Jesus Christ teaching bhakti. He's just like, when asked what was the greatest commandment, he took an Old Testament from the Torah, and two quotes from the Torah. You should love God with your whole heart, whole mind, whole being, and the other one was to love your neighbor as yourself. And he put them together and basically summarized so beautifully the essence of Dharma, of the essence of religious understanding, of the highest point, which is to come to know your essence as a spiritual entity, as a child of God, as a servant of God, and ultimately your function in this life and in eternal life is to be a loving servant in a loving relationship with God. And so Jesus Christ basically, was like, could see how demoniac that these Jewish scribes had become, and they could not see. They had no spiritual vision, even though they knew very well all the rules and regulations. So that's kind of a long-winded way of saying, basically, Arjuna is kind of doing the same thing. He's not seeing that the Vedic system was set up in a way with rules and regulations to elevate those who were not of such high consciousness that they understood, but they wanted to maybe enjoy more in the material world, but it was this way to be able to allow people to enjoy and at the same time regulate their life in a way that would be more spiritually focused, so that they could elevate themselves spiritually. So this is something that's very rare, or even almost gone now. Nobody wants to follow rules and regulations for any reason at all. And we live in a very sinful age of Kali Yuga. So continuing on, text 5. And it's kind of dark in here, so I'm going to try to read. My glasses are. Gurun hatva hi mad hanabu vash. Guess my glasses are not really that strong. Bhavara. Shaya bhaktam bhakti yasham apiha loke. Hadvarta kadmans tu gurun ihaivaha. Banya Bagan Uruhim Pladigdan. Okay. Gurun, the superiors. Ahatva, by killing. Ha, certainly. Maha Anu Bhavan, great souls. Shraya, it is better. Bhaktam, Bhoktum, to enjoy life. Bhaikshyam, begging. Api, even. Iha, in this life. Loke, in this world. Hatva, killing. Artha, gain. Kaman, so desiring. Tu, but. Gurun, superiors. Iha, in this world. Eva, certainly. Banya, has to enjoy. Bogan, enjoyable things. Rudila, blood. Pradigdan, tainted with. Translation for text 5. It is better to live in this world by begging than to live at the cost of lives of great souls who are my teachers. Even though they are avaricious, they are nonetheless superiors. If they are killed, our spoils will be tainted with blood. So basically what he's saying is, he wanted to go off to the forest and avoid his duties as a Kshatriya warrior. He didn't want to fight. He wanted to go off and be a yogi and beg and just give up everything. He was a renunciate, he was great Kshatriyas were not very attached to their wealth. They just used it as, a matter of fact that they were administrators and kings. But came the time, as I've always said, when they had to leave this world, they would strip themselves, leave their wives and children and the kingdom behind with only a loincloth. And this is what Yudhisthira did and his brothers. But he's saying that basically he wanted to go off and beg, and he couldn't imagine trying to kill his teachers for this kingdom, and that everything that they won would be tainted, would be blood on their hands, as it would say. All right. Purport. According to scriptural codes, a teacher who engages in an abominable action and has lost his sense of discrimination is fit to be abandoned. Bhishma and Drona were obliged to take the side of Duryodhana because of his financial assistance, although they should not have accepted such a position simply on financial considerations. Under the circumstances, they have lost the respectability of teachers. But Arjuna thinks that nevertheless they may remain as superiors. Therefore, to enjoy material profits after killing them would mean to enjoy spoils tainted with blood. So yeah, once again, even though they were great souls, I think by Krishna's arrangement, they went with Duryodhana, even though they tried to persuade him. They were just like over and over tried to tell him how wicked he was being. They knew what great saintly people the Pandavas were, especially Yudhisthira and Arjuna, and yet they still, by financial obligation, they fought on that side. So they're saying that as teachers, they were hypocritical because they knew they were acting as great religious and spiritual figures. But yet, in many cases, including the disrobing of Draupadi in this ceremony in front of all the Pandava brothers, none of the superiors, the spiritual superiors, Bhishma, Drona, Kripacharya, any of them stopped to try to disrobe. And when Draupadi realized that her husbands couldn't do anything, these great so-called spiritual figures were not doing anything, were just allowing it to happen, she took shelter in Krishna, and Krishna gave her an unlimited amount of cloth, so they couldn't disrobe her. They were just like pulling all this cloth. So sometimes you see these pictures in the Mahabharata of Draupadi and the great, disrobing. It was actually she wasn't able to be disrobed, but she, because of that offense, Draupadi was considered to be an expansion of the goddess of fortune. So continuing on, text 6. I'm going to try to read this small print. Nakritad vadmaha. Kataruna guriya. Yad va jayama yadi vano jayaya yam eva hatid na jivisham shantas te vashtita promukhe dodorastala. Sorry, these glasses are not as strong as they seem. It's just like trying to read small print. Na, nor, cha, also, eta, this, vidamaha, do know, katarat, which, na, us, gadila, better, yat, what, va, either, jaema, conquers us, yadi, if, va, or, na, us, jayaya, conquer, yan, those, eva, certainly, hatva, by killing, na, never, jivivishamaha, want to live, te, all of these, avashtiti chitaha, are situated, pramukye, in the front, Dhritarashtraha, in the sons of Dhritarashtra. Translation, nor do we know which is better, conquering them or being conquered by them. The sons of Dhritarashtra, whom if we killed, we should not care to live, are now standing before us on this battlefield. Purport. Arjuna did not know whether he should fight or risk unnecessary violence, although fighting is the duty of the Kshatriyas, or whether he should refrain and live by begging. So he had this, dilemma. There were a lot of factors in this, whether he should commit this kind of violence, if it was justified, whatnot. If he did not conquer the enemy, begging would be his only means of subsistence. So he was also seeing this as a fact that they probably would not have, even if they survived and they lost the battle, they would be rejected from the kingdom. Nor was there certainty of victory, because either side might emerge victorious. Even if victory awaited them and their cause was justified, still, if the sons of Dhritarashtra died in battle, it would be very difficult to live in their absence. Under the circumstances, that would be another kind of defeat for them. All these considerations by Arjuna definitely prove that he was not only a great devotee of the Lord, but that he was also highly enlightened and had complete control over his mind and senses. His desire to live by begging, although he was born in a royal household, is another sign of detachment. He was truly victorious as these qualities combined with his faith in the words of the instructions of Sri Krishna, his spiritual master, indicate. It is concluded that Arjuna was quite fit for liberation. Unless the senses are controlled, there is no chance for elevation to the platform of knowledge. And without knowledge and devotees, there is no chance of liberation. Arjuna was competent in all these attributes, over and above his enormous attributes in his material relationships. So basically stating that Arjuna was again, great warriors were very highly spiritually elevated, very intelligent, incredible warriors. So it wasn't just like Arjuna was just some kind of random, Carmen. He was considering all these factors, and presenting them to Krishna. But it's a really interesting point here about the unless the senses are controlled, there's no chance of elevation to the platform of knowledge. Yet, in this age of Kali, where our senses are completely out of control, if we take just a little bit of effort and control our senses by focusing on Krishna, the chanting of Krishna's names, then this purifies our heart and makes us very attractive to Krishna and more willing to control our own senses and the desires that plague our mind under the influence of Maya Devi. So that's a very important point. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came in this age to give us the great sacrifice because he knew in this age, Krishna knew that it would be very difficult for living entities to practice any kind of meditation at all. So he gave us a very simple meditation, which is the hearing and chanting of Krishna's names. Text 7, Harpanya. I'm going to try to read the small print. Dasha Pahata Svabhavaha Prechami Tvam Dharma Samadhya Chetaha Yach Kreyaha Swam Nashitum Bruhi Tanme Shishash Teham Sudhi Mam Tvam Prepanam Karpanya miserly dosha weakness upahata being inflicted by svabhavaha characteristics prechani I am asking tvam unto you dharma religion samadha bewildered chetaha in heart yat what shreya all good shayat may be nishitum confidently bruhi tell tat that may unto me shisha disciple te your haham I am shuddhi just instruct mam me tvam unto you prapanam surrendered. Translation, text 7. Now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition, I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. So, at this point, this is a point of when the living entity surrenders. His will, his Arjuna at this point was laying out all this stuff that he knew and all the intelligence that he knew and his own, his kind of like, what I think sort of thing. We all have this as living entities in the material world. You know what I think. And it's just like plastered all over the social media, and you can go into a political statement and there's like 15,000 people with their, what I think. And they just think, the one person just thinks, if I had my wisdom on this 15,000, I will clear it up for everyone. It's like, and then somebody comes back and says, yo, you're wrong. You know what I think? So the the message of the Bhagavad Gita and Sri Krishna is not, you know what I think. It is what it is. This is God's truth, the absolute truth. And so surrendering to that, to receive in the descending process of how we receive information, a humble state of mind. We got to put aside our, do you know what I think, and try to, calculate with this little mind of ours, exactly what we think is something. The way we assimilate knowledge and we put knowledge together in this day and age is we read through all the mass information, we pick stuff out, we shape our own idea of what we think is the reality. What, I like that part of the Bhagavad Gita, but I don't like that part of the Bhagavad Gita. I like that part of the Bible, but I actually like Russell Bernard, and I like, Stephen Hawking's this part, but I don't like that part, and then I'm going to put all this stuff together, and I actually like this Taoist kind of saying, and this, that, and this New Age person that I saw, and it's like all this information, and you've got this, like, you know what I think. This is what I, you know what I think. But spiritual knowledge in the Vedic system is so much different. You don't do what you think. You receive your information from a spiritual lineage who have received that from their own spiritual master all the way back to God. And so there is no you know what I think. It's just what it is. And so you have to come to a point where you surrender. You've put everything there, and now it's time to listen and just shut up and just receive the information. If you have more questions, you can ask more questions. So we're going to read this purport here. I don't know if I can read it. Purport: by nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. I love that. I'm going to read that again. By nature's own way, the complete system of material activities is a source of perplexity for everyone. People are perplexed. They can't figure out everything that they try to do, every turn I try to take. When they tell me, when the TV gurus on the get rich scheme are telling me to just do it this way, and I do it this way, and it's the opposite effect. It's like, how is it that I've tried to do everything, or how is it that, I have all the wealth, and I have like a beautiful wife and beautiful children, and I have, the perfect house, and you live in Hawaii, which is a beautiful place, and yet still I'm miserable or something like that, or people, they're miserable, they're on drugs, they commit suicide, even when they have all the material things, and that is a source of perplexity. Why? And if you can ask that why am I suffering when I'm trying everything in this material world of happiness, and you are able to receive that information from a bona fide source, it could be the greatest thing. That's why my spiritual master has said many times that a mental breakdown, it can be actually a good thing. So you realize that the system, the material condition that we try to set up, that we try to find our happiness, that we try to find some kind of satisfaction, and is just a complete bubble of illusion, in the sense that it doesn't last. Even if you have it, even if you've gotten it, it's not going to last. The body is going to die. Everything that you've achieved and you've worked for in your life is going to fall apart. And that's the reality of every system, but everybody still tries to, and they're perplexed by it. And this is why. In every step there is perplexity. And therefore it behooves one to approach a bona fide spiritual master who can give one proper guidance for executing the purpose of life. What is the purpose of life? Who am I? What is the purpose of my life? We are spirit souls. We are not our body. We are not our mind. We are not this temporary facade that we are passing through. And the purpose of our life is to understand this, to understand spiritual knowledge, and to cultivate the spiritual knowledge from a bona fide source, to go back to Krishna, to go back to God, to serve God in this life, to make that our purpose of life. We've come into this human form of life. On the other side of my camera is my cat. He's not in a human form of life. He can't sit here and discuss Bhagavad Gita. But he can be benefited by hearing the transcendental literature. Even if he doesn't understand it, it's still transcendental. He can hear the chanting, and he can, many other things, and he can be elevated maybe into a human life next life. But many people have come into the human form of life and squander the precious opportunity to get out of this material world by trying to build up this facade of like enjoyment, of like some kind of goal that you're going to reach. And it's just it's great illusion. It's an illusion, and then it's too late when you finally realize this whole scene was an illusion. The Vedic literatures advise us to approach a bona fide spiritual master to get free from the perplexities of life, which happens without our desire. Right? So, we definitely do not desire for bad things to happen in this material world, but yet they do anyway. It's not our desire. We try to manipulate material energy so much to try to avoid the unpleasantries of life, but yet they still come. They are like a forest fire that somehow blazes without being set by anyone. Similarly, the world situation is such that perplexities of life automatically appear without our wanting such confusion. No one wants fire, and yet it takes place and we become perplexed. Where is this forest fire coming from? Oh my God, when I was walking out into this forest, I didn't realize it was going to be a forest fire. It's like, that's like, I like work with these little kids, and they're like so absorbed in like I got to have this toy. And, if I found a stick on the ground and somebody else takes it away from me, another kid takes it away from me, this is the beginning of like, their attempt to try to find happiness. They found a stick on the ground. It's their stick, and they're going to suck all the enjoyment out of it until they get bored with it. And then some other kid will come and pick it up. But if one other kid comes and picks it up too soon, there's a big conflict, And this happens through our whole life. It starts with a stick as a kid, and it becomes countries and leaders of countries eventually. No, that was my land. No, that's my land. No, God gave me that land. No, God gave me that land. No, I moved. We migrated to this land, and we're the native people. It's like, no, we've been living here for, it's like people are like fighting over this. It's perplexity. You kind of wonder like why. How can people solve this illusion, this perplexity of life? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Eva Kevalam Kalo Nasteva Gate Anyata. The holy names of Krishna can help instruct a person about the reality of who they are. And nobody is native. There is no native land. This is all God's land. It's all God's property and energy. It's like no native land. It's like it's Palestinian land. No, it's Israel land. People let's shoot bombs at each other. And so silly. So the Vedic wisdom therefore advises us that in order to solve the perplexity of life and to understand the science of the solution, the science comes from theos, which means the Greek word theos, which means truth. I lost my place. Oh yeah, the truth of the solution, right? The science of the solution. One must approach upon a spiritual master who is in the disciplic succession. And this is what the Bhagavad Gita entails. Krishna is the supreme source, but he's also acting as a spiritual master to Arjuna. When you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, everything about that is in the Srimad Bhagavatam is the absolute truth, Sri Krishna. But it also can refer to, a Bhagavatam can refer to the person, the devotee, the representative of God, who is also one who is able to explain, and it is a disciplical lineage. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, a person with a bona fide spiritual master is supposed to know everything. One should not therefore remain in material perplexities, but should approach a spiritual master. This is the purport of this verse. Who is the man in material perplexity? It is he who does not understand the problems of life. I mean, you can see the problems, you can say the problems, but you don't really kind of like how to put it in perspective. But if you understand who you are, you understand the problems of life. You understand the source of all the problems of life. I mean, everything you can imagine and that goes wrong with this material world, the source of it is because we think we're our bodies. We think that we're our minds. We think that we are everything, that all the designations. We think that we're black. We think that we're white. We think that we're women. We think that we're men. We think that we're gay. We think that we're transgender. We think that we're tall. We think that we're fat. We think that we're old. We think that we're short. We think that we're American or Russian or Ukrainian or Israeli. It's like mind-blowing. We're none of those things, actually. We're none of those things. Those are temporary, clothes. Or illusions or creations of the mind. In the Garga Upanishad, the perplexed man is described as follows: Yovad etat ekshadam gargi avidit vashmat lakat Prati na sak klipanaha. He is, I'm sorry, I was just trying to read the Sanskrit. It's very dark in here. He is a miserly man who does not solve the problem of life as a human, and who then quits this world like the cats and dogs without understanding the science of self-realization. This human form of life is the most valuable asset for the living entity who can utilize it for solving the problems of life. Therefore, one who does not utilize this opportunity properly is a miser. On the other hand, there is the Brahmana, or he who is intelligent enough to utilize this body to solve all the problems of life. The Kirpanas, or miserly persons, waste their time in being overly affectionate for family, society, country, etc. in the material conception of life. One is often attached to family life, namely to wife, children, and other members, on the basis of skin disease. So it's like, yeah, this is like the Caucasian brothers, or this is the African American brothers, or black is beautiful, or white is superior, or Asian is better, or Chicano, whatever, Hawaiian is better. It's like, it's not a problem to be affectionate to your family, and if you have a family, that's not what it's saying. It's just saying that at the end of the day, you have to realize that that's not what this is about. And the skin disease, like everybody's like, oh, white people, or oh, black people, or oh, it's just like skin disease, it's like a pigment, the pigment of your skin. Everybody's like, oh, my pigment is better than your pigment. The Kripanas think that he is able to protect his family members from death, or the Kripana thinks that his family or society can save him from the verge of death. Such family attachment can be found even in the lower animals who take care of children also. Right? Being intelligent, Arjuna could understand that his affection for family members and his wish to protect them from death were the causes of his perplexities. Right, so he's understanding that the source was everything he laid out, and he was perplexed. Right, he couldn't fight, he couldn't think straight. Although he could understand that his duty to fight was awaiting him, still on account of miserly weakness, he could not discharge the duties. He is therefore asking Lord Krishna, the Supreme Spiritual Master, to make a definite solution. He offers himself to Krishna as a disciple. He wants to stop friendly talks. Talks between Master and the disciples are serious. And now Arjuna wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. So Arjuna and Krishna were like cousins in the material sense. They were also friendly. They were very brotherly, kind of friendly, but that sort of stopped, It's like, okay, now we know who we're talking to. We're receiving information from Krishna, It's not like having a chat over coffee, right? You're receiving information from your superior, definitely. Arjuna wants to talk very seriously before the recognized spiritual master. Krishna is therefore the original spiritual master of the science of Bhagavad Gita, and Arjuna is the first disciple for understanding the Gita. How Arjuna understands Bhagavad Gita is stated in the Gita itself, and yet foolish mundane scholars explain that one need not submit to Krishna as a person, but to the unborn within Krishna. This is what Bhaktivedanta is talking about, like all the translations of Bhagavad Gita by so-called scholars. They have no idea of what they're talking about, and sometimes completely opposite of what the message of the Bhagavad Gita is about. And they're like, oh, Krishna is just the Krishna person is a mirage, and the great unborn oneness is what's talking through Krishna, or Krishna is some great historical figure, or it's not really important to surrender to Krishna. We just got to get the message that's being said, and these things are symbolic for this and that. Just all kinds of nonsense. There is no difference between Krishnas within and without, and one who has no sense of this understanding is the greatest fool in trying to understand Bhagavad Gita. All right, I think I started reading. I read half this purport, I think, and then this is what got cut off. So I'm just going to go ahead and read part of this text 8. Nahi prashu yame mama panuryad yach chokam uchashanam indriyanam avapya buhman ashapantman putnam rudam Rajyam Salanam Api Chadi Patyam. Na, do not. He, certainly. Pashyami, I see. Mamas, my. Apandyat, they can drive away. Yat, that. Shokam, lamentation. Achashanam, drying up. Indriyanam, of the senses. Avapya, achieving. Woman, on the earth. Ashpatnam, without rival. Vidyam, prosperous. Rajyam, kingdom. Suranam, of the demigods. Api, even. Cha, also. Adipatnyam, supremacy. Translation: I can find no means to dry away this grief which is drying up my senses. I will not be able to destroy yet even if I win an unrivaled kingdom on earth with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven. Purport: although Arjuna was putting forth so many arguments based on knowledge of the principles of religion and moral codes, it appears that he was unable to solve his real problem without the help of a spiritual master. So, you've got all these rules and regulations, and it's supposed to be ways to kind of like navigate through the material world, but then when it comes down to this sort of really hard situation, that's when you approach your spiritual master, a person who knows, who has walked the path, basically. Lord Sri Krishna, he could understand that his so-called knowledge was useless in driving away his problems. So he's got all these, it's like, that's a great line. I mean, there are so many people who are so knowledgeable and so-called wise and whatnot, but when it comes to their real like crucial problems in their life, none of their knowledge can really solve their problem because they missed the point. It's like being lost in this big field of knowledge and not really, just this comes to this point of like accumulating knowledge just for accumulating knowledge, just because I know, like I'm like the material world and life is like some great Jeopardy game or something. It's not about what you accumulate. It's about what is the essence of what you need to understand. And so it was saying, like here Arjuna had like a very, very adept knowledge of the rules and regulations, the Vedic Varnashram system and everything, but it was not able to solve this problem that he had the dilemma about. Which was drying up his whole existence, and it was impossible for him to solve such perplexities without the help of a spiritual master like Lord Krishna. Academic knowledge, scholarship, high position, etc. are all useless in solving the problems of life. Help can only be given by a spiritual master like Krishna. Therefore, the conclusion is that a spiritual master who is 100% Krishna consciousness is a bona fide spiritual master, for he can solve the problems of life. In the condition that if he's telling you what to do and you do it and you apply that knowledge in your life, then you will be successful. But if you're going to ignore it, he could tell you. And as he said, he can point you down the path, but he's not going to drag you down the path. You have to walk that path yourself. He's like, bend that way. This is the way you go, right? Lord Chaitanya said that one who is master in the science of Krishna consciousness, regardless of his social position, is the real spiritual master. Kabani pra Kiba Nyayashi Shutula Kene Maya Ye Krishna Tattva Veti Se Guru Hayam. That's a Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila. It does not matter whether a person is a Vipra, learned scholar in Vedic wisdom, or is born in a lower family, or is in this renounced order of life. If he is master in the science of Krishna, he is the perfect and bona fide spiritual master. So without being a master in the science of Krishna consciousness, no one is a bona fide spiritual master. It is also said in the Vedic literatures, Sat Karma, Nipuno, Vipro, Mantra, Tatro, Visharada. I can barely see this. Vaishnavo Gunirna Shyad Vaishnava Swapako Guru. A scholarly Brahman, expert in all subjects of Vedic knowledge, is unfit to become a spiritual master without being a Vaishnava or expert in the science of Krishna consciousness. But a person born in the family of lower caste can become a spiritual master if he is a Vaishnava or Krishna consciousness. The problems of material existence, birth, old age, disease, and death cannot be counteracted by accumulations of wealth or economic development. In many parts of the world, there are states which are replete with all facilities of life, which are full of wealth and economically developed, yet the problems of material existence are still present. Hello, America. We got like fentanyl abuse, alcohol abuse, pedophilia. We got all kinds of problems, crimes, craziness, insanity, people going nuts and shooting people. And, we have everything. We have such a greater wealth than most of the world. I've lived in third world countries where the GNP is like $250 a year, They're basically living in poverty, having to walk long distances to get water out of a pump, no electricity. I've seen it all. So but the problems are existent everywhere. They are seeking peace in different ways, but they can achieve real happiness only if they consult Krishna or the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, which constitute the science of Krishna, or the bona fide representative of Krishna, the man in Krishna consciousness. So, once again, as we're approaching the appearance day of my spiritual master, it's really good to. These are really great lessons to remember about the importance of a spiritual master, a bona fide representative of Krishna, to instruct us, to guide us in the spiritual knowledge of Krishna. So that's good for today. Thank you very much. Namaste.